Hi, everyone. This is Professor Jie Ren, and welcome to my podcast, When Tech Meets Ed. We know that New York City is entering a new chapter with a new mayor. So today I'm very happy to have Terry Matthews, the director of the New York City Tangang program, to join me to talk about Tangang. So Terry, thank you very much for coming to my podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Terry Matthews. I'm the director of Tannergown, NYC, which is a citywide built environment research program. It's a platform. It's open to all city agencies. I connect agencies that have research questions with mostly master's programs where the students get credit for their work. And then we have a master contract with 14 schools that Fordham is actually on as well. And so that's what I do.
Nice. So what is Tangang?
Well, it's this okay. I've been at the city for a long time. I was at City Hall for a while. This was under Bloomberg. And I saw that people had questions and they wanted to do more work. They had their jobs, but they were curious, like, why can't it be another way?
Mm-hmm.
And they just didn't have time. And when I was at City Hall, I didn't have time. So then when I got to DDC, I thought, well, I had been a master's student at Wagner, and that's when I learned about the capstone
Mm-hmm.
method, which is where students in their last year, instead of thesis,
Mm-hmm.
they do a capstone. It's a real problem, real client, and it's a simulated consultancy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I can definitely get students
Mm-hmm.
to work for agencies with questions. And it was scaling it up so that we, the first year in 2009, we did 10 projects over the academic year. So we do like 10 to 12 projects with students, academic year. We've done 16 with Fordham, by the
Nice.
way,
Yes.
since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And we have events, we do the research, then we have symposium events where we talk about it. And it's a circular, it's called action research. That's what the recursive action research. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
And then we have some working groups because we've been following the circular pathway in certain areas for a number of years. And we just keep doing research. And that's what we do. We're just a program. We're like a resource to agencies.
So Tangang in a nutshell, and also like I got involved with the Tangang from the Fordham's and for a couple of semesters, right? So I'm like, first of all, I'm very thankful for giving us this opportunity for students to have this immersive learning experience. I totally agree with you, right? So it's like students are looking for real life problems to solve.
Oh, we gave
Right?
them a real life data set.
Yes, exactly. We will get into the details of those. But like in a nutshell, we know like Tangang is a collaboration between universities and also the city, right? They like giving students from universities opportunities to focus on analyze the data. I know the projects are not necessarily about analytics, right? It could be other projects.
They're all over the place.
Could you please introduce like some examples,
Oh,
concrete
gosh.
examples about these
Okay.
projects?
Okay. So we had 2 projects in the fall with Columbia Information, Knowledge, and Strategy. It's in their library program. And it was all about knowledge transfer, knowledge. It's like management, but focusing on knowledge. It's a whole area that, I didn't know there was so we started working with them.
Yeah.
We do work with NYU Tandon,
Oh, cool.
management of technology. We had 2 projects with them. One had to do with, okay, get this. I'm just remember this. Pyrolysis to biochar is the next big thing.
Oh, nice.
This is a very big thing.
Okay.
So we had the management of technology students focus on pyrolysis equipment and the market for the biochar that comes out of it for a particular city agency. Let's see. Wagner. I'm a graduate of Wagner. So we have two. One is on maternal health. The other one is on what we're calling plastic roads, where you take. The idea is post-consumer plastics, from our MSW, municipal solid waste. It could go into. People are talking different places or experimenting with taking that plastic and putting it in the asphalt as a binder.
Yeah.
So that could be like a little circular economy where we're generating our garbage or trash or whatever you want to call it, recyclables, and some of it can go into the roadway program. But so those are the two Wagner projects. Oh, we have Cornell Engineering.
Cornell Tech?
Yeah, no, this is Cornell up in Ithaca, the engineering school.
Okay.
We just got a presentation. We had 13 students look at designing a utilidor.
Nice. Are you connecting with them online, or they are commuting to here, to the city?
Well, in the old days before COVID, everything was in person.
Okay. That's a lot of effort.
Because, the thing is, we weren't set up in government. We were not. I think they had screens, but no one knew how to use them. I mean, we just didn't do it.
Okay.
And then COVID happened and was like, bingo, we're in business. So certainly during the work from home, everything was online. And it kind of was easier in a way, but then you didn't get the interaction. Like I met with your students. Will and I came up every week.
Yes.
And I think it's better.
Yeah, we need that in-person interaction.
If you're working
More
with a
holistic.
school, for example, up in Ithaca, you can't do that.
No.
And so, but if the students are in, I try to like maybe every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, we come together in person. I just think it's good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But some days it's like, I had like 10 projects this semester, and there was no way we were going to do all of them in person, but yours was in person. We came up here every Friday afternoon.
Thank you so much for the dedication.
So, but it's all over the place. The built environment is a discipline. It's an interdiscipline, and it involves architecture, engineering. It involves tech, by the way, which has always thrown me for a loop. Economics, management.
Okay.
Management.
Yes, management. Correct.
And there are a couple other fields. I have a graphic for that up on the website. But we can do anything, as long as it isn't metaphysical. That's where I draw the line. Metaphysics. We're not doing that.
Okay. So from what I just heard, it's all over the place, right? And then definitely that varies in terms of the nature of the project. So how did you make that decision in terms of what projects to use in collaboration
It's
with
pretty
which
much
university? Is
I
it
don't I don't turn anything down. If an agency comes to me, and so every year I do an outreach. Give me your questions, and people know the program, so they come to us throughout the year. And so I keep lists because you have to hit the schools when they're thinking. Like we started this class last spring. I mean, we were working on it over the summer.
Yes.
So there's like a, what do you call it? A preparation period.
Planning. Yes.
Planning. And but basically agencies, I beat the bushes. Agencies come to me, and I like 10 to 12 projects every year. I manage to make the connection with the program and students. And sometimes the program likes it. They go, oh, this is great. And then you have to go, and it's the dog and pony show before the students. And they get to pick. And some years the students are not interested in what students 4 years earlier were interested in. It's it's a little like fashion. It just keeps changing what they're interested in. But when we make the match, we do it. And if a project is related to a working group, I post it directly. I don't pass go. I just put it up on the website. So, for example, the 3 presentations from December are up on the website. Anyone can look at them. And then the things that don't go into a working group, I keep everything. so I know where everything is. And the work from other projects can be like a resource for new projects. Like if you got a new student group doing something, it was like, I remember we did this and we did this, and I just send it to them. And then we do events. This last year, we did an event on the subsurface in June. That was a big one. And then in November, we did an event on dredge, navigational dredge, with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. That was pretty cool. And then we have an ongoing partnership with the Vision Zero task force. And so every year they do a research on the road event. So
yeah, I remember I received the newsletter about
yes,
those.
and you can come.
Yeah.
So hello. So so I've never lacked for projects. And if I can't get the project the year it comes in, we do it the following year, as long as it's still of interest. And I'm very creative and very persistent.
I know.
So, but, and I think generally it's a good experience for it's got to be good for the students. They've got to have learned something, and it's got to be valuable to them. But we need a work product that the agencies can take back and go, oh, this is all very interesting. Let's think about this. And I think by and large, we've done that rather well.
Yeah. I really like that you mentioned the work product in the end, right? So kind of like students are these consultants in a way, right? They are trying to raise the city government together to figure out what is the situation, what could be the solutions. So from your past experiences, did the government use any of the solutions in terms of their decision making?
Okay. Well, that's okay. This is called action research. And the idea is you do the research, you reflect. This is all in the literature. I read this when I started the thing. You research, you reflect. And when you do the research, the academics and the practitioners are equal partners. This is not like you study us and then you go off and do whatever you want. We're in this together with you.
Yes.
And that's the same for the funded research projects under the master contract. So you do the research. This is experiential. You reflect. That's where we have the events. And you talk and you explore. And then you go, and this happened. We did a life cycle cost benefit for the sustainable streets. This was like in 2009, or maybe 2011. And we couldn't get any data. We just couldn't. So we had an event and we talked about the data gap. And that led to someone saying, just out of nowhere, saying, well, blah, blah, blah. So we went, oh, so we need to focus on this. It turns out we had to focus on the regulatory for the private utilities. And so you don't end up with a, aha, we're going to do this. It's just a continuing moving forward with people understanding the situation. But let's see.
It's very much like the students, the Fordham students, did their presentations in the city hall. I know that it was a full house. We got the people from like audience from different agencies, different departments. I'm sure they got like inspired, right?
Right.
And
Well,
then
there was
student solutions.
Your students did this. We learned a lot. I'll try not to.
Students learned a lot from you.
No, but we learned a lot about the data set. And so, and people in the audience were asking a lot of the same questions we were struggling with. So we posted it because, and so what do we do? Well, Will and I were talking, sorting it into infrastructure and public buildings.
Yes.
And then doing the typology.
Yeah.
So Will thought maybe there could be a machine learning exercise, kind of like some of the ones we did with you a couple of years ago, to see if we could create some rules so that it's
like classification.
Yeah. We're going to try to do it, in-house on our own. But
maybe in the future.
but
for
by the
next for this
time
fall.
the fall, if we do it again, we could do that.
Mhm.
Plus, there'll be more reporting periods so that,
Yes, data is fuller.
and that we couldn't go back to the completed projects, going back to
Of
the
course.
2013. There were so many things we could have done.
Mhm.
So we learned, we talked about it. Can I just say, it's not nothing. I mean, that's an important thing.
Yes.
People taking the time out of their day to have a conversation about whatever it is we're talking about. And we just keep going, and we keep posting, and we have events. And so in terms of action, everything, this is not, if you need something right away, like, you don't come to this program like
That's
right
true.
away.
That's
This
true.
is not right away
It's
stuff.
true.
You hire a consultant and get the answer
Yes.
if it's a right away kind of thing.
Mhm.
But this is sort of like the simmering, long term things that never quite get resolved. They're kind of real, they're important, but can you live and do the work without it? But if you can eventually get further along, I can't really, it's, well, this is a different thing. We could talk about the Utilidor working group, but I don't think we want to do that. That's moved ahead a lot over the years. And now that we have the database, every city project,
Yes.
we can keep doing this work
Yes.
with you, your students, because I was thinking one of the questions you asked me was, what about what can business students lend to these kinds of projects? I work with engineering students, public policy students, design students, business students. The public instruction, one of our best commissioners said to me, I look at it as a business. And I went, wow, that's very interesting. It is a business.
It is.
It's not a for-profit business, but it's a
It's
business.
Yes.
And we engage with firms that are for-profit,
Yes.
the contractors, which is a whole other kind of thing that needs to be studied. But because I don't, being a contractor on public or on any job, it's a really tough business. But this is a business. We couldn't give this data set to engineering students. Like, they understand infrastructure, they understand, and architects understand public buildings. But the kind of data that's in that data set, it's business data.
Yeah, especially it's about project management, right?
It's it's a lot of things, but business students look at an organization as a thing that has inputs and outputs. And for the entity to keep moving, it's got to make a profit. Not-for-profits don't make a profit. They have a fund balance. But if you want to keep an organization moving forward, you've got to look at that entire financial thing. And this data set is cost and schedule. And business students, once you introduce them to the setting, which most people fall into construction industry, it's a fascinating business. It's a fascinating industry. But the business students, so that's why I think we've done, I have it here, I counted them out, 16 over from 2013 to 2025.
Yeah, that's a lot of
12 years.
projects.
Yeah. And some years we did as many as 4 with different groups of students. And they've all been good. I mean, really, it's been a pleasure working with the Gabelli students. And I love Fordham. I just
Thank
do.
you.
I love Fordham. I think I went to Boston College, so there's like that thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I think business students can analyze things that most people think engineers, architects, planners, it's management. You're right. And that's one of our disciplines.
Yes. And then since right now we are talking about students, right? And then let's talk about like the skill sets that students could bring to the table in addition to their domain knowledge. Of course, the projects vary in terms of their nature. Some of them are more engineering oriented, some of them are more business or analytics oriented, right? So what skill sets are you looking for from students?
Well,
Any soft skill, hard skill?
I don't know the difference, but basically, with this program, you can analyze the shit out of anything. I mean,
Yes.
they can,
Yes.
and that's what we need. The data, it's not like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like, it's not a sexy area. We're talking about basic cost, schedule,
Yeah.
time, and money.
Spending, yes.
Yeah.
Money spending and also time spent.
But and the relationship between cost and spending is something that's, we know. Spending, cost, schedule, quality, they're all there.
Yeah.
And so if you have basic administrative, and this is administrative, we're not collecting this data and present it's part of our work. So it's administrative data. We're not producing it to study it. We're doing the work, and it's like a corollary. It's a collateral, right? So it's administrative data. And as long as you have people who can analyze it, but have to understand the domain, they have to they have to be willing to spend a little time understanding construction and the whole process. So I mean, are the analytical skills hard skills or soft skills?
Hard skill. It really depends on like what techniques you are talking about.
So it's the hard skills, we come to you because we got data, we want it analyzed. And I guess the soft skills,
for example, communication skill and ability, like people skill, the ability to interpret the data in terms of relating that to the context.
Right. And so that's important. And in with this kind of data set, the domain, you have to be, we met with them every week.
Yes.
And I was sending them emails all the time.
Truly immersive.
You have to, be in there with them. And this is not just this project. It's a lot of them. I am on a weekly cadence on all the projects, definitely at the beginning, because there's so much they have to understand before they start. I mean, they just wanted there's a program. I'm not going to mention it. They're really, really smart, and they're really, really good, and they're data scientists. And if you give them the data set before you meet with them, the next thing you know, they've already come up with predictive analysis, and it's a little crazy because they don't know what the data set is coming from. We try to avoid that. One time that happened. It's like, what?
Too far.
Because they
Too
can,
far ahead of the game.
but this is the thing about when I learned statistics a million years ago, and you can delete that, but I don't think you want to, because it's really that. We learned statistics. You had to have a hypothesis. The problem at the time, you had to do research, you had to design your regression, and you had to get the data. The problem was always the data.
Yeah.
Because, you had to do surveys. I mean, and then the internet and data science. This was during
machine learning algorithms have been used more and more.
Well, it's just the idea that open data, in city government before Bloomberg, and this wasn't like right at the beginning. Agencies, you could foil agencies, but we didn't share data. We were there was a reluctance to share, and you had a foil. It was very, and then all of a sudden,
now it's quite open.
We have the open data portal.
Yes.
Like we're putting a lot of stuff. But the thinking at that time was, and I remember this because it's like, give us the data, we'll analyze it and solve your problems. It's like, well, how do you know what we're doing? There needs the old statistics, which is where, and that's the domain. You got to understand the domain. You got to spend time. You just can't like go at the data and do stuff with it. So there is a need to slow down the process before you can let them, but they all want to do predictive.
They don't want to prove themselves, right? I get that.
And so we always have to leave room at the end of a project so that they could do the predictive. And at some point, if you keep doing it enough, especially if we keep doing it with your students and the buildup of all of the stuff we've done in the past,
Yes.
the predictive analyses might actually be predictive.
Yeah.
You know, like
be very informative.
Yeah, like you could go, oh, well, maybe we could do that. So, and the soft skills, you know, they're students. Excuse me. I mean, they're busy. I mean, when I was a student, I mean, when I do anything, I'm not on my computer. I'm not on my phone because I hate my phone. I hate my phone. And I'm always writing because that's how I came through. And they're all on their tablets. I know they're taking notes, but you're talking and there's no, so, you know, there was a lot of getting to know you and, but the soft skills, but the, you know, the engagement, which is why in person is so important because you can't really do that remotely.
Yes.
The, is they know you, you know them, you have these conversations where, you know, and some students are shy. You know, it's not every student is gregarious. And there are usually some who are more. It's a mix, but and being curious, really interested and asking questions. When the students start asking questions, that's when you know you're having this mind meld kind of thing. You know, not Star Wars, Star Trek, the mind meld, you know.
Yes.
But when they start talking to you and asking you questions, you know, you've made that connection. So the soft skills, I mean, I keep saying to students, I say this to all of them, and this comes from my training as an attorney when I first started working. The partner said, there are no stupid questions. None.
I agree.
You ask because this is not new. You weren't the first person to think about it. Ask, we'll tell you so you don't waste time and our clients' money trying to figure it out. So I say to the students, there are no stupid questions. Sometimes I feel like they are afraid to ask because they think they're stupid and they don't want to be judged. And I said, look, we're not grading you. I want you to understand this. And I think, you know, face-to-face meetings helps with that. It's really hard remotely because they're just, they're presenting. Do you have any questions? But trying to get them to ask. So I say, no stupid question. The only stupid question is the one you didn't ask that I could have answered earlier. And we could have been over that problem. But, you know, by and large, all of these programs I've worked with, the students are great. And I think it's because they have something real as opposed to there are other programs where to have a capstone, it's got to come from the professors.
Could be a made up scenario.
It's more made up. And I've tried unsuccessfully say, really? You don't want a question from an actual agency? No, it's got to come from the professors. And I've tried to work with them. And they're not bad projects. I mean, they're still good for the students. Don't get me wrong. But they're not real. They come up with kind of ideas. It's like, well, this is interesting, but this isn't going to help. And I think when you give students something that's actually real, it makes a difference.
Okay. So maybe let's kind of shift our conversation a little bit because we know that AI is transforming the society.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
a question. So I'm
the answer is
you.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay. Maybe we don't talk about
No, but okay.
Okay.
So I hate my phone. I'm not fond of the internet. You know, I'm just, but this AI thing is happening. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
So on this project this fall with the Columbia IKNS, Information Knowledge Strategy Program, which is about knowledge transfer. So we have at the city a multi-agency initiative that has been going on for several administrations.
Okay.
And what they wanted, they learn things. There's this back and forth with researchers, and they wanted to get ahead of a curve. They wanted us, how can we learn about what's going on, new emerging tech, what's going on in other cities or places where we don't know the language. So they were talking about that, and I said, I think we could do this as a project. So we started that project. And that's when I understood the value of AI. And it kind of actually reminded me of one of the presentations I heard from, this is years ago with the UN project,
Yes.
the AI.
They're building a localized ChatGPT equivalent.
Yes. It, like, I remember learning that, and I was like, oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And then it like kind of clicked. And I realized that it's a tool, and so I think, but the city isn't quite there yet to let the agencies use it because it's a big city. I think there are like 46 agencies.
It could also be like data privacy issue, right? Some of the data that
But we have an agency, it's called Office of Technology and Innovation. They are the agency, like there's OMB that does the budget for all the agencies. There's Mayor's Office of Contracts, all the procurement. OTI does all of the policy for tech. New tech, supporting innovative tech, but also the tech for all of our agencies to make sure everything is secure. So the rolling out of this is on its way. And I've had conversations, and I know they're thinking about it, but I get it. I think if done properly, which I have every, I know that we're careful.
I agree with you with caution.
And there's a whole lot of stuff, but once it rolls out, I think there could be agencies are ready to use it because it will help do things faster.
Yeah.
It's just
like information faster, for example, more informative, and also like automated, right? So that things can get done faster. But there are concerns as well, of course.
But you have to, okay. I wrote an article. It got published with another professor, and it was painstaking, and it's original work because it came out of my head, right? And I have another article that I'm thinking about, which is a follow-up. And then all this AI comes out, and it's like cheating. There's a part of me that actually feels like if you have AI write something for you.
You don't get to read, like enjoy the reading experience anymore.
Synthesize
summarize everything for you.
Because I think it's cheating. There was a little teeny part of me that thought, well, okay, I'm going to do this new article because you learn, you synthesize. It is your work. You cite properly to everybody else, but you're putting it together. Is your work. And this is true of all of the students' work. They do literature surveys and they synthesize it. And by the way, I tell them, everyone, I know AI on your papers. This has got to be your work. And I can tell it's their work because I can tell. But that's how you learn. You can't, but maybe. So I thought, well, after I write this article, which hasn't happened yet, it's like maybe I just ask AI to write that article and see what the difference would be. But it'll be a million years before I write that article. But I just still think it's cheating. So if you can leverage it as a tool, but you always have to check the work. You always have to double check because it's a machine.
Yes, it could be like making up stuff.
Well, it's what it is. So you still need to train students in the basics, like for statistics.
Yes.
Descriptive statistics, correlations, the boring stuff before you get to predictive. Because if you don't go through those steps and understand the domain, you are not going to have end models that make any sense.
Yes.
You got to be careful. So the answer is, I think the city will be there. Just they're working on it.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of the cautious attitude towards the use of AI, especially in the educational context, right? So we want students, as an educator myself, like from my point of view, I want students to get exposed to the use of AI because a lot of companies
They're
are
going to
using
need it. Yeah,
they're gonna need it. They're gonna need it, for example, for ideation, for information, kind of acquisition. But at the end of the day, they also need to actually demonstrate what they can bring to the table, right? So they cannot use AI to replace their learning.
Yeah.
Right. To at best facilitate their learning. There's a fine line though.
Yeah.
Right.
It's when I first started out as a lawyer. Okay, this is the deal. When you would write legal memos, we had to go with the books. We were in the books. And there was this term called shepherdizing. You had to make sure that the case you were citing hadn't been overruled. And it was a very laborious process. We all learned how to do it. And then at some point toward the end of law school, something called Lexis came out, and the shepherdization could be done by a machine. And I was on law review, so I couldn't get to use it. But when I went to the firms, they said you can use it, but it was wicked expensive, right? And so I did the shepherdization myself because I knew how to do it, and I knew my work. And then I would run it to see if the machine caught something that I missed. So it was like a check. So that has always been my methodology with technology. I know how to do stuff. I know how to think. I know how to use resource, because we all had to learn the research paper, how to write a research paper. Remember we had to put things on note cards. Because if you're writing it was awful. Anyway, and so the computer, you don't have to write a note card. You can take notes and you can file them and you can move things around. It was great when I finally learned, you mean I can word processing. I don't have to write everything.
Speed up
Great.
things.
But you still have to know the work. You have to be able to check it. It's just that simple. You have to check that it's right. And it's something, if it's got your name on it, that you would have, it's your work product. It's otherwise, so yeah. And so students need to know how to do it, but they need to know the skills.
The fundamentals.
The fundamentals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think so. I could be wrong, but
I know. I 100% agree with you. So you know me. I also paint, right? So
yeah.
I think I can use this as a metaphor. Like from my own experience, I feel like in order to be pursuing other styles in terms of like abstract, impressionist, etc., you have to set your foundation strong, which is coming from realism. Right. So it's kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
Right. So you can know like how to use the different AI tools, but you have to make sure that you have the fundamentals covered first.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So I have one final question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So as the director of the program, at the Time Gun program, what is your future vision for this?
Okay. I saw that when you said, I was like, oh, geez.
It's a big question.
Yeah. Okay. So this has been going along we started it officially, the first academic year was 2009, 2010. I've been doing this, I think,
Many years.
16 years.
Wow.
And the year before, we did a lot of incubation to get it started. And the master contract, we're in the process of extending the last two for an additional 5 years. They ran for 10 years, and so they're going to be expiring. And I don't know that I will be doing a new one. At some point, I think I might Um, I don't know. I could do this forever, but what's the future?
Mm.
Replication.
Mm.
This model, it's a university community partnership, and there are a lot of variations of university community partnerships, but this one solves two problems. It solves the problems of academics programs needing real questions.
Mm.
So we got that. And it solves the
And real data, for example, real
pardon?
data,
Real data, real questions, real things,
real
not
things.
pretend things.
Yes.
And it solves the problem for agencies that just want to get a little bit better understanding of something that they just don't have the time
Mm.
to get to.
Mm.
And we solve the procurement problem because for agencies to access faculty directed research,
Mhm.
it the master contract pretty much makes it as simple as it can be done. Those two, the experiential learning model and the master contract, are replicable.
Mm.
You could do it up in Boston. Some days I want to go up to Boston and say, hey, you want to do this?
Yes.
Or Philadelphia. I've had conversations with people in Philadelphia, but and I go around and I talk about it. I pretty much won't shut up about it. So
Come on, it's your baby.
yeah,
You're like
but
proud of it.
I think having it be replicated in different cities, because what it does is the universities that are clustered in an area are important to the economics of the place.
Mm.
If is the North Carolina Research Triangle is an example, Silicon Valley,
Mm.
up in Massachusetts, the 128, the medical kind of thing.
Yes.
In some places, the university and maybe with a medical center
Mhm.
are kind of the only deal in town.
Mm.
But and the town, there's that we call it town and gown. Hello. Yes. There's a negative part to that where the town feels the gown doesn't appreciate, there's a
Yeah.
that there's that thing. But town and gown can be a very fruitful, but there are barriers. There are procurement barriers. There are language barriers. I mean, researchers talk a certain way, and agency people, I've been on both sides and I kind of like go back and forth. That's, after they say something, it's like, that's what they meant. So
Mhm.
just, you know, you're saying the same thing just with different words. It's the same thing. Um, so the program, if I could just find a city that wanted to do it.
Mhm.
I went up to Boston about 7 years ago and they all seemed really interested. Philadelphia, they've called me a couple of times. Um, so if I, if I can find another New York City group of
Mm.
agencies that have an issue area where they would like to have their own master contract for their issue.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to like make it spread,
Spread to
not
other
like a
communities.
disease,
Mhm.
but spread, and replicate because I think we definitely solved the procurement problem,
Mm.
which is like a big um, impediment.
Mm.
And there are a lot of programs, and I've worked with them that want to support towns and the universities in experiential learning. But um, we're- I just think if you don't have the master contract in place while you're doing all this other
Mhm.
getting people thinking and doing things, if the agency says, now we're ready to move and
Mhm.
do the real research,
Mhm.
they won't have that thing to go to.
Mhm. They
So,
need the background information to be solid
yes.
first. Mhm.
So replication is the
Yes.
future.
Oh,
Yes.
that's amazing. So I know that definitely, like your vision right, right, will be rolling out to other communities
Well,
because at the end of the day,
yeah.
right? So universities and also this city government, what I mean, right? So, so they're all like serving communities, right? We are
Mm-hmm.
in it together,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, and I'm like very much looking forward to like working with you again,
Well, we're
like
going to hit
other
you next
semesters.
year.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right.
Um, so, so thank you.
Oh, thank you for being
And
on the podcast. I had a
okay.
pleasure talking to you.
And
Getting to know more about Tangang.
yeah, well, and oh, we have a website.
Yes, please
Uh,
talk
all
about
you
it.
have to do is in your search engine, write Town Gown NYC, one word,
Mm.
you'll get there. There's a landing page and you can look around. It has a nice graphic of the action research cycle. So you go, you look, my email address and my phone number. You can call, you can email me. I am always happy to talk to people about it.
Nice. So check out this website then.
And
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much.